Welcome to the Secret Sauce. Payroll is the single most universal transaction in the business world. It's the point where promise meets reality. But here's the crazy part. For something that touches the livelihood of every single employee, payroll is still treated in a lot of boardrooms like it's just admin. And it's not. It's the actual heartbeat of the organization. Today, my guest, Kira Rubiano, has become one of the strongest voices challenging the way that people think about payroll and pushing leaders to stop treating it as a back office afterthought and start seeing it for what it actually is. It's the infrastructure that keeps business alive. So this is going to be part strategy, part personal story, part challenge, and part, hopefully, the part where payroll leaders start listening to strap in. Kira, let's start here. You said before that payroll isn't just process, it's infrastructure. And that's a really big statement and one that a lot of C-suite execs still don't fully get. So tell me why you're so passionate about your mission, how your work's helping to change that narrative, and how you take something so many leaders overlook and make them see it for what it actually is, a strategic priority.
Thank you so much, Ian, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
First, I'd like to say I'm wearing pink today because in October we wear pink, and I am a recent breast cancer survivor. So whopping 2 weeks in remission. Yes. So I do want to call that out because I think it's important to mention that in this
That's
that it
amazing.
is. Thank you so much. Yes, it's been a whirlwind. I've had a very challenging summer dealing with diagnosis and treatment and everything, but now I've turned challenge into advocacy. And so something that you'll see a lot from me is just my voice on the LinkedIn community, raising awareness about early detection, which I believe saved my life and got me to where I am today. So just wanted to say wearing pink
I love
for
that.
Breast Cancer Awareness
Yeah.
Month.
So breast cancer's personally touched my family as well. So it's horrific. So God bless you and so pleased for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very blessed. And it actually really has made me look at life differently, at what I do differently, and really drives me with a lot more purpose. So
Mhm.
I'm excited to talk about that today. But getting back to the statement, so I've been in global payroll for almost 20 years. I've worked with hundreds of clients throughout my career. And I truly believe that payroll is infrastructure. And why? When we think of infrastructure, right, we think of the things that keep businesses running. So you think of internet, you think of electricity, right? You think of facilities. But when we really get down to the root of it, payroll is one of those key components because if today every single payroll professional walked off the job, we would have global anarchy.
Absolutely.
Right? No one would get paid. No one would want to work. Taxes aren't being remitted, right? So governments can't function. And so, of course, if we break it down in that way and we look at it to say it is truly a critical component, not an operational afterthought,
Mhm.
then we see payroll as infrastructure. And I think far too often leaders don't realize how critical of a foundation and part of that infrastructure payroll is because it serves the most important thing, which is your employees.
Yeah.
Right? Your employees is what keep the company running. And so I make that statement with a lot of passion because it's really, really important that we realize how critical it is for the people of the company. And
Mhm.
so at Payroll Minds, our main goal and our vision and mission is really to elevate the payroll profession, really have leaders and the organization look at payroll as infrastructure, as a connective tissue. I mean, if you think about it, it connects finance, legal, HR, tech. All of those areas are connected by payroll. And if there's an issue in payroll, you feel the ripple effect in
Yeah.
all of those areas, whether it's compliance risk, financial accuracy, employee trust and satisfaction. If anything happens within payroll, that then creates a domino effect within the organization. And most importantly, payroll is critical to reputation. So if there's an issue, and you see this in the news a lot, oftentimes, especially in the UK, I've seen it a lot, where if there's an error or something goes wrong, the reputational damage can sometimes be irreversible.
Mhm.
So it's really, really important that when organizations really sit down and look at the foundations of their organization, that they do see payroll as strategic, as a key component of their strategy, and truly a area that needs focus so that they can continue to grow and flourish.
I think that seeing that shift in payroll as paperwork and seeing that as infrastructure, it's a massive shift. You know what I mean? So, but let's be real about it. More often than not, you as a senior part of the leadership team at Payroll, Mike, you must be seeing that the like boardroom debates where they're talking about strategy while the payroll professionals are left there carrying the can, you know, and more often than not, they're there carrying that load in silence, and that weight, it has consequences. Payroll professionals, even the good ones, the great ones, are still carrying that weight of accuracy, compliance, trust on their shoulders every single month. you know, you've been on the front lines. What's the most common pain points you're seeing that payroll professionals or globally are facing right now? And more importantly, how can leaders step in before that burnout takes them out of the game completely?
Yeah, I think, well, there's a couple things, and that's a really important point that you mentioned, Ian. Burnout is real. It happens in this
Absolutely.
profession. And why is that? There's many reasons, but one of the most important reasons is nothing short of perfection is good. Okay. So when was the last time you said thank you to your payroll administrator for making sure that your payslip was correct? Right. But
Yeah.
if anything is wrong, guess what? You will be upset, you will be frustrated, and you will come to your payroll team and you'll say, why is this wrong? Right.
Yeah.
And so for payroll administrators around the world, it is very, very rare to hear, thank you for getting me paid. And thank you for, doing everything in your power to manage all of these different processes, complexities, systems to make sure that our employees are paid. But if there's an issue, especially with a leadership's pay slip, that is when, you know, everything breaks loose.
It
And that is
comes in
actually, I've seen it far too often when an executive has their payslip wrong, which is when they say, what is wrong with the way that we do payroll today? This is unacceptable. We've got to fix things. And so it often takes that issue for the organization to start looking at payroll. And I've
Yeah.
seen it a lot. There's a couple other things. So obviously nothing short of perfection, but you also have an area of like complexity without clarity, especially in the global realm. Payroll professionals are expected to know all the different governments, all the different systems, all the different processes, how everything works, and they're not given the tools and time to really understand it. It's just expected. Like you do payroll, then you should know all of these things. Isolation. Is payroll in finance? Is payroll in HR? It's like the never ending battle. They don't know where they belong. It's like the adopted child that keeps, or the foster child that keeps moving parents without having oftentimes true like leadership, like a true leader that represents that voice. And oftentimes finance just cares about the numbers. They're not going to really understand the complexity of payroll. HR may be more vested in focusing on compensation and rewards and benefits than actual payroll. And so oftentimes there is this area of like isolation. I know that there are payroll departments of one, and those individuals oftentimes don't know who to turn to or talk to because they feel like they're the only ones that understand what needs to happen. And then, of course, in what I've lived far too often is constant firefighting. You're asked to be strategic, but you literally don't have time to do that because you're firefighting. When I oversaw payroll in over 112 countries in my last role, literally I would wake up with anxiety because I knew that the minute I opened up my computer,
Yeah.
that there would be at least like 20 issues in different parts of the world for various and a multitude of reasons. And so you're not just pushing buttons, as the saying goes, and I starting to not like that phrase, but it's pushing buttons. You're solving problems and you're constantly having to think on your feet and figure out how you're going to manage an issue in Djibouti or in Papua New Guinea, and you've never been there.
Me neither.
You've never been there, but you're expected to figure it out and to make sure that you know how to fix the problem. And sometimes there's problems that surface in payroll that you never knew were possible. they appear out of nowhere and you're like, how is this even an issue? But it does become that. And you have to solve it because employees are at stake, livelihoods are at stake. You want to make sure that people can take care of their families, they can take care of their bills, they can take care of themselves. And so you drop everything to fix it. And so at the end of the day, of course, burnout is happening not because of lack of care by payroll professionals. They love what they do, but
Mm.
because they just simply don't have the support oftentimes and the tools to manage all of these things at once.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. I mean, it's not just about process, it's about people, and you've been really open about your own journey, how that's shaped the way you show up as a leader. So let's have a look into that. How has your experience changed the way you lead, mentor, even design, your internal payroll operations? Where has been the crossover between, your personal health journey, well-being, and your professional excellence for you?
Yeah. So it's something I'm very passionate about. I have led many teams globally throughout my career. And first and foremost, I love people and I love mentoring and nurturing individuals to be the best selves that they can be or the best professionals that they can be. And so I really came up with Mind Body Payroll as my kind of slogan and mantra because I felt like there was really a need for that. And why I say that, when I think of Mind Body Payroll, I think of a grounded mind, a cared for body, and payroll comes with purpose. And so, just like we just talked about, the profession is a very difficult profession because of all of the areas that I mentioned and the constant pressure to deliver on deadlines. And far too often, payroll professionals actually take more care of their payroll than they do themselves.
Mm.
Okay. And what I mean by that is that they will wake up at 4 in the morning to, check what's going on in Egypt, and they will stay late to, they'll work 16-hour days to make sure that that payroll goes out, but they neglect their mind and their body. And unfortunately, the effects of that can sometimes be irreversible. And I started the mind body payroll journey even before I got diagnosed with cancer a while back, where I wanted people to just take a moment, especially in our profession, to say, okay, am I creating mental space for myself to like release the stress that I'm feeling on a daily basis? Am I taking care of my body with nutrition or just by taking a walk or being active?
Yeah.
Because all of those things will help me be a better professional
Yeah.
and will help me balance that the stress of meeting those constant deadlines and firefighting and also, leading teams and whatever that may be. And I believe that in order to lead well and to really be successful professional, you have to put that mind body first. And it's something that I've really made a priority because I was one of those people that ate lunch at my desk. I took my laptop on vacation. I would check it at, 11 o'clock at night. Yeah.
Yeah. When you lay in bed, literally checking your email on your phone. It's terrible. I do it still.
Yes.
I still do it now.
Yeah. And I think for me, you know, for me, getting cancer was really even a bigger wake up call because I can't say that, the stress of the industry caused my cancer, but I can tell you that it for sure exacerbated the hostile environment in my body
Mm.
to probably help it flourish. Okay. And so for me, when I realized that, I was like, I have to champion for the industry and for professionals to say, don't wait for a cancer diagnosis. Don't
Mm.
wait for something very difficult to happen to you, whether it's, your mental health or your physical health. Start prioritizing that first and give it the same care that you give to payroll. You put it first. So give yourself that care. And if you do that, then you will lead a purposeful life in that sense. You feel better, you approach it differently, you're more proud rather than just constantly like feeling that pressure. And so for me, I just want to encourage boundaries. I want to encourage psychological safety and a space to like give yourself grace and to learn. And so for me, it is something I'm passionate about. And I still recognize there's going to be days where I'm a maniac, but 90% of the time I won't be. 90%.
I think, and that's the beauty of it. Payroll isn't just numbers on a screen. It's the humans behind that holding it all together, and they don't get the credibility and the praise and thanks that they deserve. But here's the twist: payroll's also becoming more automated now. More digital, more AI driven. So how do we hold on to the humanity while chasing efficiency?
Yeah. I really look at AI as a tool. Okay. It's one of the tools that payroll professionals have been asking for a long time. Help me do things more efficiently. Help me automate these horrible manual processes. Help me find ways of managing compliance better and accuracy. And so the way that I see AI, it's really there as a tool to give payroll professionals that space to be more strategic rather than just administrative and putting Excel spreadsheets together and scrubbing data. And so if we look at AI and what's happening in the industry, and of course we're following it very closely, and I myself have been working with various tools, like I see it as a bit of a blessing, to be honest, because it's what we've been asking
Mm,
for years and years and years. And so we should embrace it. We should realize that our roles, not roles, but the responsibilities may change, right? I think payroll will always require a human component in terms of that deciding factor to oversee AI, because you still need somebody to, in an essence, make sure, yes, sign off. Yes, we're going to figure this issue out locally because we need to approach it this way. I have an employee that's upset. I need to address that employee. And so you're always going to need a component of human touch. But for those things that really drove our days crazy, let's let AI help with that, because we we can't get what we wanted and now say we don't need it.
mm.
Right? Like, if we've been asking for it for so long. So we need to embrace it. We need to understand what's happening, and we need to see how do we need to adapt as professionals so that we can make the best use of the time that we get from the time savings that AI gives us.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of it. It's that striking that balance between efficiency and empathy. At the end of the day, payroll is data, and AI is brilliant at doing all the heavy lifting with data. But that deep personal connection between a payroll manager, the payroll team as a whole that touch all the other employees on a monthly basis, that it's the human element, that human contact that you just can't replace. And AI will never replace that personal touch with a human. While everybody's there chasing automation, I can see that AI will process your payslip, but it's only humans that can deliver that trust. Efficiency
Mhm.
without empathy, that's a broken model. In payroll, data's numbers, but it impacts humans all the time. So I think, you know, that's got to be the line in the sand, efficiency and empathy, which is going to bring us that close to where we need to get to for a department. I mean, your view on it may be slightly different, but for every professional listening right now, trying to understand where they're going to fit into that process. Some will be thriving, some will be barely hanging on. It's one thing you can tell them right now that, might be a lifeline to them.
Yeah. I think if you look at AI as any sort of tool that's come along in in the recent years, right? We never thought that we could call upon a service to pick us up right by our houses whenever we wanted, right? But we
Yeah.
adapted and we started using, applications and technologies like Uber or Lyft. Or we never thought that we would be applying for jobs online and looking for opportunities, and we're doing it through LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
So if it, o- or like driving self-driving cars. I mean, all these things have happened and we've embraced them and we've adapted and we use them, and we can't imagine life without them, right? I can't imagine life without right now without Amazon or Uber or any of those types of things that have been convenient. They've allowed me to now not focus on running out to the store and spending 45 minutes looking for my Windex where I can get it delivered right to my door. And
Yeah.
so when we look at AI rolling out in payroll, we have to look at it that way. We need to embrace it. We need to learn how to use it. And before we know it, we can't imagine life without it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think payroll's the heartbeat of the business, and the payroll team is the pulse. You know what I mean? So that's the deep dive that I think people are really interested in, to get into the nitty gritty of how they perceive their role and how that's going to change.
Mhm.
A lot of people that I've spoken to over the course of this year have been saying, they don't know how AI is going to impact their job, whether they'll still have a job. And I've been talking to them and saying, look, you'll still have a job. It's the human element that people can't replace with AI. And there'll be some AI boffins out there saying, no, 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 we can replace people. We can use AI. But when you're talking about something so emotive as somebody's pay, when somebody genuinely has a problem with that and they go to the payroll team and say, can you please explain this to me? Even if you're using a bot or a chat bot to explain that, there's still no feeling behind it. And that can feel very
Yeah.
empty sometimes, you know.
Well, and I'll give you a great example. So I had an insurance problem yesterday,
Uh-huh.
and I needed to get a hold of somebody to explain something to me. And I think I went through several numbers. I got so many different bots that were like, press one if you're this, and press two, and then I was getting so frustrated. I was like, my goodness, I just need somebody to explain this to me. So finally I was able to reach somebody. Of course, it was a call center, but that individual, she was incredible. I mean, she did everything I needed for her to do for me. Like she connected with my provider and she set up a three-way call and then we walked
Oh, good.
through everything. And at the end of the day, like she helped resolve it. And so that was a great example for me as to, okay, the initial kind of steps were the AI type steps or the automated steps.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they couldn't solve my challenge. I needed to speak with somebody. And so that human touch really, I appreciated it. And I said it at the end of the call. I said, just thank
Mhm.
you for like being human and
Yeah.
for working through this issue with me. So it is a great example. I think where you're going to see differences is, entry level may not be the same entry level that when we started, which was plug this in, enter this timesheet, tuk, 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 put these numbers in. And so now that entry level role is going to look different for
Mm.
sure. I think so. But it doesn't mean it's not going to be needed. I think it's just going to be a different type of role depending on what the organization has set up and what they need. That higher up area, you're still going to be validating, signing off, solving complex issues, managing compliance, being responsible for linking, being that connective tissue with legal, risk, tech, finance, and HR. You're still going to have to work together as stakeholders to ensure that you're all fully aligned with the way things are working and with the strategy of the business.
Hmm.
So I think it's gonna really evolve that entry level
Yeah.
type role for sure.
Yeah, I think that's critical. So a lot of the people that listen to the podcast right at the beginning of their career, we get questions all the time saying like, Ian, where do I go to get the information that I need? Are there any networks out there? So we refer them back to the CIPP, Payroll Org, Payroll Support Network, where they can go to get mentorship from industry professionals like yourself. That they can just bounce questions off and say, look, have you come across this? And you'll go, yeah, I've done that, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, got the mug. It's what it is. But I mean, Kira, it's been a fantastic insight into, your journey and what you see that's coming in the future. So now all the deep dive stuff's been dealt with. We've got I won't say it's a tradition yet, but it's getting there.
Mhm.
We have a rapid fire round. So I've got a couple of little rapid fire questions. They don't require a lot of thinking about. They're like dead easy.
Mhm.
Um, but we'll go for it. So, what's one piece of advice you could give to somebody starting out their payroll career that you wish you'd had when you started yours?
Wish I knew what payroll was when I started my career. Because I didn't study payroll. I wanted to work for the United Nations, but here I am keeping world peace by getting the world paid. So I see that I'm still fulfilling the mission that I started off. I think just understanding how important it is, to be honest. I came in as a young 22-year-old out of college, just being like, I don't know what this is, but I guess I've seen a paycheck. So I got to do it. But I don't think I truly understood the impact and the value that my
Mm.
profession brings. And so I think as a young individual coming in, I would say be proud of entering into the profession because it is absolutely critical. And once again, if every PR professional walked off the job today, we would have global anarchy. So remember that.
Absolutely. So that's amazing. If you weren't in payroll today, what would you be doing?
Probably working in the United Nations with my original mission. But I think I've learned through the years there's a lot of challenges in that organization. So I don't know if I would have stayed too long, but my passion is working with people around the world. That is all I wanted to do since I was about 14 years old. I have a map tattooed on my arm because I love travel. I love working with people all around the world. And that's what gives me excitement. And I say I have friends in every country. And if I wanted to just get a coffee, that I had somebody to call upon. And so for me, anything to do with just interacting with people at an international level would have made me happy. Luckily, getting into global payroll was a blessing because it allowed me to do that. I've been able to travel so much in this profession. I've managed teams all over the world and I have lifelong friends all over the world. And so I'm very grateful for that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. What's one tool you couldn't do without?
One tool right now,
Yeah.
ChatGPT, because it's made my personal life so much easier, and it helps me professionally.
Okay.
I'll give you a great example. So I was going through a lot with my breast cancer diagnosis, lots of
Yeah.
lab work, test pathology reports, and all that doesn't make sense. When you see it, you're like, I don't even know what this means. And me just taking that pathology report and putting it in, it
Yeah.
like it ChatGPT explained it to me in a way that I could understand it. Or putting together like a travel itinerary when I go on vacations, I ask ChatGPT, I say, hey, create this itinerary for me with, family friendly, arriving on this date, going here. We want to do ABCD. And it just day by day outlines everything and I follow it and it works beautifully. So I use it not just for, helping me organize my thoughts or like summarize some notes or polish emails or whatever it may be. I use it on a personal level to just make it easier for me to understand or plan or organize. And it's truly it designed my next tattoo,
Well,
actually.
no, you've just given me an idea for a brilliant article that I'm going to write as well. So literally, the
Yeah.
payroll professional is the chat GPT of your business. They're the people that can answer the questions on risk. They're the ones that,
Yes, that's
you'll read
true.
it. Read it. It'll be brilliant. Trust me.
That's true. Absolutely. I know I was always like the person, at least in my last organization, where people would go to and be like, okay, we have this issue. And I go, okay, you need to talk to this person, that person. Is we all need to get together because
Yeah.
this affects A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And so then you're the connective tissue. I like saying that because it's truly as you understand risk, you understand the HR component side of it, you understand the financial impact of it. And so you're the one pulling all these different functions together.
I love that. That's amazing. Right. Last question. If you had to boil your own secret sauce down into three ingredients for success, what would they be?
Three ingredients for success. They would be a self-starter attitude. Don't wait for things to be asked of you. Be proactive and be that self-starter attitude. Empathy, I think, is really, really important, whether it is related to the employees that you pay or the people that you manage or the colleagues that you work with. Having empathy is absolutely critical. And also give yourself grace. It's okay. Mistakes happen, issues happen. It's important not to be so hard on yourself because when you do that, you really can't move forward. You're always going to be stuck.
One last thing before I release you back into the wild. Every episode, we ask our guests, because the industry needs more champions like you to recognize more people for the contribution that they make. We'd like you to nominate a payroll Olympian, someone that you believe deserves recognition for the way that they've moved the profession forward. Who would it be for you and why?
Well, I'm going to say Bart, not because he's the CEO of Payroll Minds, but because he has been very, very open about speaking on behalf of the profession. His book that he wrote really sets out a great, all the ingredients for someone to look at themselves and become a better payroll professional and leader. He's very passionate. And I tell you this because I speak with him on a daily basis, that he's always focused on doing the right thing for an organization, but also being authentic to himself and what he believes needs to happen in an org. So I would nominate him not for the brownie points by any means, but just because an overall he's a really wonderful human being who deeply cares about this industry and has a lot of great things that he's setting out to accomplish, not just on a professional level, but also personal level. So I would say to him.
So it's Bart. Okay. Well, we'll work our magic and try and get Bart on the microphone as soon as possible. I know he's a busy guy, so we'll see what we can do. This has been powerful. You've connected strategy with humanity, technology with empathy, and reminded us all of why payroll matters far beyond the payslip. For everyone listening, let this just hit home and land for you. It's not just another podcast today with an episode with a lady wearing pink and a guy wearing black. Take one thing that Kira said to you today and act on it. Put yourself first. That mind, body, and payroll mantra, it should be literally embossed into everybody when they start payroll. I've been Ian O'Callaghan. This has been The Secret Sauce. And until next time, keep your systems tight, keep your people supported, and never forget payroll is the heartbeat of your business. Take care.